lots of testing is key to being able to safely reopen the economy and identify and contain any new outbreaks. Today, Canada reached a testing milestone. More than 1 million people have now been tested for COVID-19. Though, as Heather Urix-West explains, there's much more that could and should be done.
At drive-thrus and other testing sites across the country, testing capacity has ramped up. But as Canada moves towards easing restrictions, the need for more testing is more important than ever.
When we're able to see more cases happening in the community with increased testing, you can see if another outbreak is about to happen. You can see it much earlier, and hopefully we can prevent having to go into this massive lockdown again.
Alberta still leads the pack, while Ontario, which struggled with testing early on, has shown big improvement, though that province admits it still struggles to hit its capacity target each day.
The only way we can get a handle on this is to have a very strong testing program, along with the contact tracing as well.
But Ontario is far from alone. Canada has capacity to test 60,000 people each day, but only about 25,000 tests daily are being performed.
In a jurisdiction that actually has the epidemic under control, you may not be testing as much because you don't actually have cases. And we've heard from provinces that now that there's no respiratory virus sort of season, they're actually getting very few people coming in for testing.
But testing the sick should only be one part of the country's testing strategy.
There should be some sort of surveillance in different regions to really ensure that we can detect cases in areas that, so we can detect cases early enough and pounce on this such that it doesn't spiral out of control.
That means testing more people without symptoms. Asymptomatic testing is being done in provinces like Alberta, but even there, strategies around exactly who should be tested are still being worked out. And so even that province is seeing much of its test capacity each day go to waste.
We could do up to about 7,000 a day. And the volumes lately have been anywhere between, say, 3,000 and 5,000 a day.
Thousands of opportunities to catch the virus early being missed every day. Heather Urix-West, Global News, Calgary.
When a major news event happens, Canadians expect journalists to be there. And during times of crisis, like a pandemic, people turn to news organizations they know and trust. Ratings are up across the board right now, but ad revenue is plummeting. COVID-19 has sped up a problem that's been plaguing the industry, especially newspapers, for years. Though, as Eric Sorensen explains, two international tech giants are still reaping rewards.
At a time when journalism is so vital, many of the biggest newspapers in the country are imploring Ottawa to confront internet giants Facebook and Google. Newspapers are hurting. In recent days, new cutbacks, the Kingsville Reporter and more than a dozen other community papers in Ontario and Manitoba are closing. Major publishers who normally compete have signed a joint letter stating they are suffering huge advertising revenue declines because of the coronavirus pandemic and are calling on Ottawa to make Google and Facebook pay their fair share. It's estimated 80% of digital advertising worldwide flows to Google and Facebook, but they don't pay Canadian news providers for their content.
The big internet companies have been getting a free ride.
This executive for Global News parent company says broadcasting is also suffering. While news ratings are up, advertising revenue is down.
The reality is these internet companies who have almost monopoly status over how Canadians access content through the internet are not remitting any of their revenue back to the publishers who are creating the value at the end of that chain.
In France, Australia, and elsewhere, governments are taking action. The digital giants are thriving in this crisis, says the French finance minister, who is proposing an EU tax on them.
I can assure you that Minister Guilbeault is working very hard, very closely with allies around the world.
Recently, the Prime Minister did not deem it a priority, but now sounds more committed.
We need the media now during a crisis more than we ever have.
A close ally of the Prime Minister on free trade and president of Unifor, which represents some Global News employees, Jerry Diaz is critical of Ottawa's foot-dragging on internet companies.
The media outlets around this country are getting slaughtered, and the government's doing absolutely nothing. When we have wholesale carnage in the media industry, that hurts the democracy in the country.
Facebook declined to comment, though some social sites do also drive consumers to Canadian news sites. But by not paying taxes here or for content, internet titans are not recognizing their obligation, says this journalism authority.
These large internet aggregators need to acknowledge the fact that they are basically taking away the work product of other media organizations without fair compensation.
At the same time as our product, our news product, is more in demand than ever, media businesses are facing a deeper threat to their bottom line than ever.
And media companies' bottom line is just one of many the government must deal with these days. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.